welcome everyone. We are back with another podcast, and actually, today we're gonna have a very special podcast. Uh, Maybe not the the happiest podcast of all time because, as you can see, we're gonna talk about the Holocaust. As this week was the International Remembrance Day of the Holocaust victims on the 27th of January, and we decided that it would be important to talk about such topics, um, even even if it's not the happiest, as I previously mentioned. It actually devastating topic. And as usual, Patrick is with me. I think I think you cannot be heard in the podcast, but I will try to have on that. Talk now.
And do you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome back, everyone. Of course. And yeah, as Roland said, today's podcast not gonna be that funny and entertaining. However, we will try to cover all the things concerning this madness and, of course, Holocaust and all things. And we will try to be as respectful as we could. So yeah, I believe we should just start to get like smoothen this up a little bit and um, like try to like get the mood, you know.
Yeah. Uh, so like, first of all, uh, when we talk about such topics, I think it's really important to say that, of course, it might disturb somebody, uh, as the topic itself is like horrible in some ways. However, uh, continue watching if you're fine with that. Because it is really important to draw wisdom from past events like this. And the main two things I think we will deal with today is, of course, first of all, what's happened, how it happened, and second of all, which is I think even more important, we will try to talk about actually the actual conclusions and actual takeaways from a topic like this.
And I believe like nowadays problems as well should be included because we still have some madness here, of course, as well.
Yes, and that shouldn't be forgot because it's a lot of things which has had happened in the past still happening. Of course, not on a scale of a genocide, uh, but still happening. If we just think of discrimination, especially negative discrimination, uh, then yes, there are things that are still here. But then I think let's just go with history first and then conclusions and nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick thing. Tomorrow, hopefully, we're gonna launch a video on the Holocaust. Uh, so if you wanna get notified, then be sure to check the bell icon. It's gonna be about how so terrible events like this can happen. What are the things that leads towards a genocide? We can say. And also another thing, I'm part of the Anne Frank Youth Network, uh, and they deal with a lot of things concerning the Holocaust. If you don't know, Anne Frank was 15 years old girl who died in the Holocaust and wrote a diary, which is very famous. Um, and I can highly recommend checking the Anne Frank Youth Network out because it's a really good organization. And also, so we are not experts. So if you're interested more into the topic, there are really good websites out there which you can read of.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So about what happened. Actually, we've got to start with with the Middle Ages, which is like shocking, but it actually can be traced back to the Middle Ages. Um, so, but the division between Jews and Christians actually existed since the existence of the Christians and the Jewish. Thanks to uh, that Christian people used to think how uh, Jewish people uh, Jewish people's fault is the death of Christ. So they blamed the killing of Christ on the Jewish people, uh, which
Yeah,
is
so it was like, sorry to interrupt, but it was like an important contradiction. So it was like, this is the most important. Of course, there were some other contradictions as well between the two like religious parties, of course. But yeah, just to mention this.
yeah, it was the starting point, we can say,
Yeah, yeah.
which is, by the way, of course, not true for a couple of reasons. First of all, like not the old Jewish people killed Christ, like no leaders killed Christ, and second of all, they were Roman leaders, so like they were from the Roman Empire, and they didn't really have a decision in this. So no, the Jews did not kill Jesus.
So
Um,
there's no evidence, no evidence.
no, yeah, and of course, like still, a whole religion cannot kill somebody. Like all of the people within the religion cannot kill one person. Like you cannot generalize this.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course, and you shouldn't. You definitely shouldn't. All right, just like back in those days, it was like it wasn't a thing that you shouldn't generalize because it's bad for you and it's bad for the community as well. It wasn't a thing, I believe so.
yeah.
So that was like a natural reaction
Somewhere,
back then.
yes. And then again, still in the Middle Ages, a socioeconomic difference appeared as well, thanks to concluded laws within the religion, which set out how Christian people shouldn't work in the banking system in the financial territories, which resulted that they have to accept Jewish people working in banks, which at those days weren't that significant as banks were just a lower percentage of the whole picture, like of the whole economy. But as we know, especially nowadays, banks fastly grow and grow, and the financial sector grow and grow, which resulted a lot of Jewish people having money. But
Eventually becoming like wealthy
yeah,
sector, yeah. So you had like a huge percentage to become wealthy like when you were like Jewish. So you had the chance, of course,
yeah,
because of your because of your like the roots of the family, yeah, and things like that.
yeah. Also, of course, so like it wasn't true for all Jewish people, and the stereotype that Jews are rich and powerful is coming from this, but it is a stereotype, and it is not true. For all the Jewish people, there were some, and it was like statistically a fact that more Jews worked in banks than Christian people. Uh,
And of course, like it was it was a natural reaction from the Jewish like people, of course, because in order to bring food to the table for your family, you need to do something. And when you can't go out to the fields and do your thing and take part like in the like agricultural system, then eventually you have to reconsider all things and find something else that you can do for your family. And this was like the only way. So there was no other chance.
uh, Technically, yes, and like, of course, so of course, this made the already existing social tension between
Strong, yeah.
the two groups strong, especially in the 90s and the 20s,
Yeah.
20th century. Sorry. Uh, so yeah, uh, and this was also the root of anti-Semitism. Uh, this is if you're not familiar with the term, anti-Semitism means uh, um, technically the discrimination and negative discrimination toward Jewish people. Also, the negative
Host,
thoughts on Jewish people.
yeah.
Um,
Hostility and prejudice. Yeah. Things like that.
yes, yes. And yeah, this was the root. And now we're gonna jump a lot, but this is when we can actually start talking about the 20th century, when it all started with the First World War, of course, because the two world wars were very much connected, of course. Um, and as we know, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey, all the Central Powers lost the First World War, which meant they had to suffer different loss. Um, this was in territorial laws. This was in war repar- reparation. Yeah, reparation.
Yes.
Like a payment for the winning countries, the winning allied powers, and stuff like that. Which is this important starting point, as after the Paris Peace Conference, uh, these countries got very very strong, very very strong losses, like big territorial loss, big war reparation, and other restrictions. By the way, um, in the various agreements, mostly the uh, French and the English leader Clemenceau and George Lloyd were the ones who started pushing their ideologies on crushing the losing countries, because this was literally crushing the losing countries. Um, yeah, of course, a lot of bureaucrats and other people were working in the background, but we mostly know about the actual politicians who were represented. This is when, like, you may familiar with the term of the Big Four, uh, because there was the Italian leader and then the leader of the USA, and those were together the Big Four, um, who concluded these decisions. And so we can suspect after a war, your country is already in a miserable situation because you've been just through a war. And then that's added up with the biggest war of human history at that time. And then uh, the losses are very high, like way bigger than it was ever before. And all this together added up a very unstable situation in Germany and in the losing central countries.
Yes. And of course, I believe it's like simply true. I mean, like from the point of view of the winning countries, those who won the First World War, it is like simply I can fuck with this idea, because those countries who lost should sleep in the bed that they have made. It's simply as that you need to face the consequences of your like continuous lapse of your like judgment throughout the like whole war situation. And of course you've tried to kill those people who were defending those countries who won. So it's like as simple as that. So I believe it was a decision that was strict, but till a certain extent I believe it shows the truth, definitely.
Uh, yeah, and also like we can say how the war has always worked like that. Wars started because different countries wanted to gain more territory, wanted to gain more power. Uh, of course, morally these are not good things, and of course, as we can see from now, from the present, we see how bad uh, situation this caused. But the fact is that it works like that, and we cannot help it. Um, and yeah, so Germany. Now I will try to concentrate on Germany, but we will may mention other countries as well. Um, so Germany was in a completely unstable situation, both economically and politically. Um, and this was the time when Hitler tried or attempt the first capped the beer hall patch, uh, which was in Munich, of course. But this was a failed attempt, um, and he got into prison. Um, because so Hitler already wanted to gain power, wanted to, in some words, recreate Germany. Had these ideas, uh, and this was in 1923. So we can see
Yes,
5 years after
the war.
the war.
Yeah.
Uh, and so Hitler already and the Nazis already had plans, uh, but of course the instability of the country uh, wasn't that huge after 5 years the war. It was constantly increasing, of course, but it wasn't that unstable than compared to when the Nazis actually won the elections. Um, so at this time, Hitler didn't really have support. No one really saw the potential in him being a good leader. Uh, he established his party, the uh, National. I have to check this. NSDAP, the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Uh, but as I said, he got into prison, and so far he couldn't got into power, which was of course for the better. But in this prison, and that's gonna be very important. He wrote his infamous book, The Mein Kampf, or in English, this is my struggle, uh, which in he included uh, yeah, several things, which is technically the Nazi plan, how to make Germany flourish again.
So like taking under like full transparency, we can definitely say that he really took the loss of Germany and the fall of Germany back in those days. Of course, we can say that he fought in the First World War as
Yeah,
a soldier. So he took this loss quite personally. So it was like a heartbreak for him because he had this like mindset inside of his head that he needs to he needs to do more, and he needs sacrifices. He needs to build the Germany and make it great again, because he actually, I believe he actually took this loss quite like personally, as I've mentioned it before. So of
most
course,
likely
o-
yes.
yeah, of course, when you have, you know, you have this like switch in your mind that when it turns on, there's nothing that you there's nothing like in front of you that can stop you from doing this. And of course, in the end, as we all know, he succeeded some ways.
Yeah, uh, and of course, uh, he actually he actually got elected, and then he actually started making the country better and also worse in some ways. Um, so in his book, as we know, uh, Nazism concludes anti-Semitism and concludes a sort of superior race and inferior races.
Yeah,
This is the main concept of Nazism. Uh, in his book, this is when he identified the Germans as the Aryan uh, species. I could like in
yeah,
brackets,
yeah,
but
yeah. You
yeah,
definitely can say this. Yeah, they were
yeah.
like a whole different level.
He
He
thought,
put them on. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then he identified inferior races, like the Slavs, like the Romas, like the homosexual people, uh, and also disabled people. And he even identified parasites, which was like the Jewish. They were the people who should be killed, or who should be, uh,
I would say separated
yeah,
from the like in like brackets, like the healthy people.
yeah, or yeah, in his thought, of course. Now we're
Yeah, yeah,
talking
of
about
course, yeah,
that.
of course, of course, of course.
He believed that like Jews shouldn't exist in Germany, um, and of course this idea itself is very crazy. Like just think about it. You cannot control where you're born, which religion you're born in, or which what with what sexuality you're born with. But he separated. He identified as he identified these things differently, even though this is not something that you could by any chance control. Um, and this was, of course, a very open discrimination towards these groups. We could say it's even more than discrimination because uh,
It's hatred.
it's hate.
It's
Yeah,
hatred.
it's
Yeah.
hatred. Uh, it's like um, it's very weird because we do not even have the words for it as before Nazism, this didn't exist. Like, discrimination did, but on this scale, it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there is another things he included in his book, like the Lebensraum, meaning that the Germans had to gain more territories and stuff like that. And he also wrote another book which was like the concrete plan of the Nazis. Um, and so the problem, so with all his idea, uh, was technically to to create a perfect society, which from his point of view was without Jewish people, without disabled people, and so on. Uh, and it is crazy, of course, because even if like you believe that the perfect society is doable, it's not it's not the way, because the society won't be perfect if there is no Jewish people in it and stuff like that. Um, but he in fact very believed in this, and he wanted people to believe in these ideas. And it could be a pretty good question time, that why, like, what was the reason behind this. Hitler wanted to gain power, and as we know, politicians tend to gain power with feeling based propaganda, with influencing our feelings, and with our feelings he influences our thoughts as well. uh and hatred, no matter how bad it is, it's an enormous feeling. It's big, it's huge in everybody. And of course there are people who can control it more, and there are people who can control it less. um and Hitler wanted to build his dictatorship on this hatred. He wanted to use out this hatred, uh, for gaining more power.
A strong base, to be honest. It's like a strong
Yeah.
base.
Yeah, and it creates very fanatic thinking when something is hatred based, because hatred itself is fanatic, and then when it applies in politics, it's gonna be even more fanatic. It's gonna be crazy, it literally is. And and with all this, with his book, he already wanted to make people afraid of Jewish, and make Jewish people seem to be weak for just the reason that they are Jewish, which is, again,
A ridiculous idea.
yeah, it is ridiculous. But it was a way to make the people blame the Jewish for different things. As previously mentioned, attention and blaming already existed between Christian and Jewish people, and displayed out this card on a higher scale, because with this, Hitler wanted to blame the First World War on the Jewish, the loss of the First World War.
And of course, the Great Depression as well.
Yeah, and later on, because like from 1929, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, you're not.
the Great Depression happened, which was like an enormous economical crisis, and because, as I previously mentioned, more Jewish people worked in financial sectors, Hitler also blamed the Great Depression on the Jewish. And he started making the people blind with their feelings, and in a situation, in a devastating situation, he gave people an idea that, hey, here is a reason for your loss. Here is a reason for anything bad, which has actual no big causes in it, but it's just a reason. It's just a scapegoat. Um, and this started gaining him actually a strong group of people, a strong group of support, as people started to be blinded.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I can agree with that 200%. And of course, this idea to build a political party and to build to build a future of the German people, hatred and on these ridiculous ideas, like to a certain extent, it is like crazy, and you cannot imagine how it could be like figured out. But he did it in the best way possible, of course. Like, from his point of view, we would say that the best way, of course, for us and for those ones who suffer from this, from his ridiculous ideas, of course, this was like the end for their of their life and of their secured future and things like that. So yeah, it is crazy how he could manage to do that. And fun fact, to be honest, if I had like the opportunity to talk to somebody who is already dead, but he was like an important figure of the world's history, I definitely would talk to Hitler, because, full transparency, he had 10 years to build up a country again, to make people like be a fanatic part of his culture, of his ideas and mindset, and to, yeah, I've mentioned this before and it sounds funny, but like to make Germany great again, of course. Yeah, so yeah, and quite honestly, he did that, so it's crazy. Yeah.
It is, and yeah. By the way, it's the same with me. But I just want to ask one thing from him. Why? Why did you wish?
Yeah, so
It's
I think there's a simple reason for this, like it should be like an answer now. So I believe the answer to your question should be like, the hatred already existed. Of course, we have mentioned the historical and all the matters that led to this situation, and I believe, like, from his point of view, at the first time, he didn't recognize and didn't accept Jewish people as those ones who ruined everything. However, in order to build something up on hatred, you need to go with the people. You need to go with those people's mindset who are on a larger scale, who have more power because of the amount of people who believe these ideas. And I believe he just simply used the already existed hatred against the Jewish people.
yeah.
And this is why it actually came down to horrible things.
Yes.
So I believe he put his logical sense in this idea. And like vice versa, if like did not like those people, he of course, like vice versa. So now I'm gonna say it right. So Like, imagine that the Jewish would have been those people who are accepted, and the Christian people would have been those people who suffer from hatred. I believe he would have chosen the side of the Jewish people, and he would make terrible things to those people who were Christians.
Yeah, most likely yes, uh, because this was a tactic to to gain political power and support,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
and to build a dictatorship, uh, and and uh, and he needed this blinded thinking people
Yeah, yeah.
uh, who follows him whatever it takes.
And of
And
course, we have to mention that he gave ultimate to these people, because the country is already in hell. It is destroyed everythingly. Yeah, it's a made-up word, but I believe it sounds better than to just like, yeah, economically and socially and things like that. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, and in order to bring food to for your family on the table, you need to accept the leading power, because if you're not, then you don't have the opportunity to cooperate with your fellow mates, because most of them will actually, in the end, accept, and this accept acceptance will eventually drive us to the fact that it was a brilliant idea that he chose to be the one who actually grabs everything in order to build this country up again, because he had this all sorted, like sorted out. Everything was sorted out. So he gave ultimate to the people. They had no other chance.
yeah. Because there was another factor, as Hitler openly suggested ideas on how to make the German economy better. Um, and because we were back then, people were in the middle of a crisis, uh, the Great Depression, and had no jobs. If somebody comes here and say to you that, hey, I will give you a job and you can feed your family, then you will most likely support that politician no matter what, because you want to bring your family food, because you cannot live without it, obviously. Um, and so Hitler's support was gaining from was growing from two sides, both those who believed in the Nazi ideology and also those who had just no choice but to support Hitler. Um, and all this lead to 1933, when even though Hitler still didn't win the election, uh, he was accepted as Chancellor, because the ruling Conservative Party wasn't supported enough. So they had to work together with Hitler. Um, and then we shouldn't forget about how in Germany there was another radical side that was increasing. Communism was increasing as well. Uh, because in devastating situations and in uh, points when the country is unstable, people tend to lead towards the extremes, towards the right extremism or left extremism, uh, and in Germany, at this time, uh, a lot of people supported the Nazis, and a lot of people supported the communists. Um, and the Reichstag was burnt, and this resulted, like Hitler was saying, how the communists did this, which, if you think about it, would be a huge crime, as it's the German parliament, uh, and this actively decreased the support of the communists, and those people started supporting Hitler, or a lot of them started supporting Hitler, and all this together resulted in 1934, when the Third Reich was established and Hitler was elected as Führer. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know
if
if if you pronounce this way, but
Yeah, in
I can
Hungarian we
understand.
do.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah.
uh,
I
the
believe it should be the same because it's like
the
a
German
German
word,
word.
yeah,
Yeah.
which just means the leader, but it's the leader, like the despotic, the absolute leader.
The
Uh,
Almighty. Yeah.
yeah, and also Hitler established a very strong um culture towards him, actually, because if you go on the internet and type in Hitler, you can see how many people actually loved Hitler. There are these marches when people uh, were actually waving to him, and hailing to him. Uh, because they loved him, uh, as he was the center, or he was thought to be the solution uh, for those blinded thoughts that actually the Nazis gave to the people. Um, and yeah, this is when all all things started. As economically, Hitler started improving the country, but also he started attacking the Jewish. First of all, with a lot of laws against the Jewish,
Yeah.
uh, which was actually about destroying them. And now we're not talking about smaller uh,
Restrictions. Yeah.
restrictions. Now we're talking about things how Jewish, um, I, how Jewish. So when Jewish can go to the street, how Jewish had to wear the Star of David, uh, and this was, by the way, a very strong step, because if you think about it, uh, now he actually visibly differentiated the Jewish from uh, the society, and they were pushed into ghettos, where a lot of people lived in small places together. They didn't get job opportunities. They even had restrictions, like how they cannot go to the cinema, how they cannot ride a bike, and stuff like that. So in every way, they restricted them. But, and here is an interesting thing. At this time, Hitler didn't plan the Holocaust. He wanted to make the Jews leave the country. There were different attempts to make them emigrate, for example, to Argentina or to Madagascar, but all these attempts failed. Um, and actually, after all these attempts failing, was when the Nazis decided on the so-called final solution, which meant the execution of all 11 million Jewish people in Europe. This was, by the way, in 1942. Uh, and between these times, laws and like more and more laws were concluded against the Jewish. And of course, as well, the Second World War started. Um,
So
as
so
which was also Hitler's plan, as we previously mentioned it, because like the
yeah, yeah,
Lebensraum was that
yeah,
actually. Uh,
yeah. So in the end, we actually can say that it was logical, logical, logically. This is how you pronounce this word. I don't
yeah,
even know.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So logically, so it was the like like the destroy of existence of the Jews step by step, and both mentally, both physically, because and as you can see that like throughout time, those laws which were made against Jewish people actually got stronger, and included more restrictions. So like in the first place, they didn't need to go to ghettos and things like that, but in order to destroy them like entirely, they needed to. So from the point of view that of Hitler's point of view, he needed to destroy them, like to make stronger laws, more restrictions, and this is how you actually can finish a person.
Well, I think what you mean is like how they did it step by step,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. So it was like a staircase, and like in the first place, you are just like on the first level, second level, and then you go higher and higher, and it is harder to actually climb the stairs when it's get when you when you have covered like all those levels of the stairs behind you, but you still have some like stairs in front of you, and those are like harder to take. So this is how I try to visualize this, like they did all those things, but they still had to face, like, I mean, the Jewish people still had to face laws again and again, and restrictions again, and it made them fully destroyed. So like eventually the goal was not to like separate Jewish people and to make them like make up like a safe place for them, or just like try to help them in order to leave the country. He didn't care about that. He literally just wanted to get rid of them ASAP. And there was no fear, there was no feelings, emotional stuff, shit. He just simply wanted to end this like uh species. I don't want to say this word, but from the point of view of him, they were like another species. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and as we know, all this led to the Holocaust, which was like incredibly terrible, like unimaginably for what they did actually, because first it started with a special group called the Anzac Group, and they were soldiers who killed the Jewish within the war. And then they started establishing more extermination camps. Extermination camps. They started with killing with bullets, and then used exhaust gas from diesel engines, and then the cyan gas chamber appeared as well, uh, which which like step by step they even increased the amount they could kill, the mass grave they could create, uh, and by the end, for example, in Auschwitz, they killed 60,000 people, or yeah, people, because not only Jewish people were killed, but also Slavs, Romas, political opponents, homosexual people, disabled people too, um, and and yeah, it's just unimaginable how big of a mass grave they did, because at the end it meant around 6 million people dying from the Holocaust just because they are Jewish, and and I think it's so bad, as if like obviously, but the level of mental stress and mental um, torture this causes is is on the next scale, because imagine you are in a row, you arrive to Auschwitz and you are in a row, and if they say you go left, then you will do horrible labor work and may stay alive. If they say you go right, then you're immediately killed. No
Yeah, you're
matter
dead.
who you are,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
killed.
yeah. You know that you're dead, and of course, in order to finish these people, they didn't have names in these places like Auschwitz. They had codes, so the names were abolished, and all they got was some code on their arms. This is how they actually called them, by numbers. It's crazy that everything that is like which should be allowed to every single living soul on this world was taken away.
Yeah,
It was taken away.
it's like taking away the things that makes you human,
Yeah,
and they literally handled them as not humans, as as they were they handled them as they are the Jewish. There are humans and the Jewish, which is which is so like horrible. I know I'm keep saying that, but this is the situation. Yeah, because we're starting to run out of time. I will be a little bit quicker with conclusions, because we can actually fasten the conclusions up in one little sentence. The
there's
Holocaust.
sorry,
Yeah,
just to add something as well. I just wanted to add.
of course.
So like, of course, in the video which is coming out like tomorrow, it will be explained like more like clearly, of course, clearly, yeah. But in order to feel this like topic, you need to be aware of those like sentences that we have mentioned, like they did take away basic human rights. So it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I cannot say it like again and again, because just imagine that you are not able to hug your family members. You are not able to talk to them because you shouldn't, because when you do, you are instantly dead.
Yes.
You are surrounded by thousands of people who have the same agenda just as you do, but you cannot interact with them, because when you do, when you lose concentration off of your work, on your labor work, then you are done. You don't have names, you are called by numbers. You don't have food, you can eat once a day. You don't have fresh water. You don't have anything.
Yeah.
It is, and I'm really thankful for like the God, or like what is it called?
I don't know what you mean. Destiny.
Yeah, fate. Yeah, and our fate. Yeah, destiny and things like that. That I was born into this age.
And not
Definitely.
the 1930s.
Yeah.
Especially because like which we tend to forget how not just Germany but other countries took huge part in this as well,
Yeah, of
and
course. Our
Hungary,
country
our
is, yeah,
country
yeah.
as well. For example, the first law against the Jewish was concluded in Hungary in 1920. Uh, this was a law that regulated the amount of people, amount of minority being on university, which wasn't directly against the Jewish, but in practice it was against the Jewish. Um, so like the fact is that it the conclusion we could create is how the Holocaust happened, which means it can happen again. And the reason why
Yeah.
we learn about it is to prevent happening again, prevent having another Holocaust. This is why it's really important. And
Yeah.
and what we can see nowadays is that we've got to be alert in politics and not tricked by
The media.
the media and the things that, like, for example, back in the days Hitler's propaganda used, because
Yeah.
that was one of the key steps of the whole picture. Also, another thing is how I think discrimination should just I'm not saying it shouldn't exist because it will exist, but it should be decreased as much as it possible, because discrimination and stereotypes and generalization are the basis of these propagandas, are the things that these propagandas use out, which at the end can make us blind.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, and this is these are things which, even if we think that are like negative discrimination and the Holocaust or genocide is far from each other, like, yeah, they're connected but they're far from each other. They're not that far, because if if a politician cannot use hatred to blind people, because there is no hatred towards certain group, then they won't use it, and that's it, because they cannot, because they won't gain power with using it, as it doesn't exist. If,
Yeah.
of course, if they say it completely disappeared. um
Of of course, we should mention that when it comes down to politics, just push all feelings to the side, man. You don't need feelings in politics. It's all about logical sense. Nothing else. Nothing else. Because when feelings and emotions can like sew into politics, then it is fucked.
yeah, and because in fact, I think we can just experience even in everyday life how feelings can blind us, can make us make us to think things which we actually wouldn't think, or makes us do things which we wouldn't do without that feeling.
Yeah.
And in politics, it just doesn't work. Of course, in everyday life, it has to be balanced as well. But in politics, there is no feelings. Like there shouldn't be. It's we could say it's based on rational decisions, as you've got to consider everything together, all the sides together, all the results, and all the possible happenings together. And I also want to highlight how, if you think that the Holocaust is the past, I'm I don't wanna be the one who makes you sad, but the fact is that it's not the past. And not just because thousands of people, millions of people are still discriminated. Millions of people still got hatred because of who they are, and I mean how they born, but also the Holocaust exists in actual ways. Like there are countries where laws are still concluded against a certain group. We can just say our country, like in Hungary, literally. In December, the government concluded law against the homosexual people.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I don't want to say that like it's the same as what Hitler did. It just similar to those steps which were taken in the past. And yeah, hopefully it won't end up in a genocide. But I think we shouldn't try to make the fire go away. We should prevent the fire from happening. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and these are times when events are still stoppable, because when the final solution in case of the Holocaust was decided, it was at that point unstoppable. It has to be stopped before we at the genocide.
This is why we have to recognize like all those little steps against a certain group of people, of course.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is why I believe this is why you have emphasized this.
Yes, and also, if we just think of nowadays, uh, another examples could be what Donald Trump did with the immigrants, which was a clear hatred-based propaganda towards the immigrants. Or even we can just think of China, where extermination camps actually exist against a type of Muslim religion. I said type because I don't know. So like I don't know the word because there are different Muslim religions, and so it's different. So like not the very well known Muslim religion, but actually the main point is that Muslim people in China are taken to extermination camps. So it's so much exists that it's actually happening. Like that can be called a genocide.
and we have to mention that we live in the 21st century. We live in a world where technology is on a whole another level, where we actually can grow back uh, certain areas of the body when it's like removed.
Yeah.
We have biometric like printers. We have everything which makes our life easier and more convenient and safer, but we still have some madness out there, like these camps, like those people who are right, like who are just like who has this narrow mindset, like this narrow like point of view, this tube like narrowed like point of view, that those people who are different from us are are or shouldn't be alive,
Or
or shouldn't have the same rights as we do. It's ridiculous.
it is, because honestly, I believe no matter your nationality, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, whatever, one thing is always gonna be the same. We are all humans.
Yeah,
Yes, there are different things, like we're born with different things, or we're born into different conditions. Yes, but that's not a reason for judging somebody, and especially not in politics, where it influences what's gonna come next. And we've got to recognize this. It's important to recognize this, as as if you think about it, the only way from preventing something like this happening, the only way to decrease discrimination is in recognition of the situation. Because let's be honest, the German people didn't see what Hitler was gonna do. They 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 just were completely tricked,
yeah,
and we have to recognize how to not be tricked, how to not be played out by a sort of radical politician.
to be aware of the happenings and try to find the truth behind every single word what they say, what politicians say.
Yeah, and just not believe the right away propaganda that is out there. We live in the time of the technology. You've got unlimited sources to read, especially and if you know English, and I suggest if you listen to this podcast then you know English, uh, then you've got so many sources out there which you can read, and you don't have to believe the first sign that is out there.
Yeah, yeah,
and
of
and
course.
and just think, recognize, and try to be just a moral human. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
that. Because everyone deserves the same chances, and everyone deserves the same rights.
yeah, definitely.
As as anyone can be a good and anyone can be a bad person.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it is true. I can agree with that.
yeah, and
However, I believe that our time is like,
up. Yeah,
yeah, maybe sort of, yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know anything you want to add, because in the end I would like to add one simple sentence.
Then I want to say just one more thing. Uh, and that just so whatever happens, I know it's idealistic to make these things disappear from the world. They will exist, but we individuals are the ones who can make it decreasing. We individuals can actually make a difference, and I think we are we are good enough if we decreased it.
We just need to be on the same page.
Yeah, and we can decrease we can decrease it, like as if you just think of what went on in Europe in the past 70 years. It's it's actually changed a lot, like a lot. uh and we actually already made difference, so I believe we can make more difference.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're 100% right. And there's one more thing that I like to end, like to add, and I believe like we can end this with this idea. If you would like to add something else,
You can go on, and then we
all
can
right.
end this.
If you then you wouldn't. So there was a wise man who is actually the person who I'm talking to right now, and he told me that you shouldn't judge people by the fact that who they are. You should judge people by their actions. I think everyone can feel this because actions hit different. When it comes down to actions, you actually have some evidence in order to um, not like hate somebody, but in order to not fuck with those people, of course. But just to discriminate a person because whether he is not your nationality, he's the opposite sex, he has a different agenda, he has different ideas of the world, then just go and fuck yourself,
Yeah,
because it is not, it's not,
it's
it's not,
not
yeah,
fair and it's
Yeah,
not human.
completely agree with
it's not.
the lovely ideas.
All right, I
Yeah,
believe we can, yeah.
yeah, I think we can end. By the way, if you didn't know, this was Domi. uh he will, by the way, in the future he most likely will appear again in podcasts, we hope so. So uh fast closure. um I I'm not saying that I hope you enjoy this, because it's not an enjoyable topic, but I hope you could draw some wisdom, some recognition from this. You could learn something from this. And if you did, then a sub and the like would be really appreciated. And in this case, the share would be the best, guys, because the most important thing is to raise our voices in these topics. And if you could share this with others, then that's amazing, because others can hear about it as well, and they may did not hear some of the thoughts we were talking about here. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and tomorrow we're coming with another Holocaust video. So get ready for that, and see ya.
See you guys. Thanks for watching.